Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Bigger Warriors 2 in the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are on your purpose, continuing to conquest yourselves, conquest things around you because of that, under God's purposes and plan. So guys, I've not been with you for a few days. Again, kind of busy weeks, but hoping to get this one done. I am going to try to keep doing these more often if I can. We got lots of topics to cover. Let's do some shout-outs first before we get to that. Let's kind of do Johnnie 5213, got two of them, thank you, my friend. Kongo 6042, thank you. Ponts of Vance, thank you. Ponts of Vance. Sheniskd, thank you. Just want to say I'm a big fan, thank you, my friend. Radioear, Oleg, 2 for Oleg, thank you. Mr. Fredweb, 2, I think, for him as well. Drakera, thank you. Razul, asked about coffee. I think we'll do a special on coffee. I know you guys asked about that one a little bit. Lahmidii, thank you. Thoughts became things. Thank you very much. Reality TV, thank you. Sultan job, thank you. Led by Grace, thank you. Leasekerfrancisxavier, thank you. Lykkos, thank you. Ben from Australia, thank you. Chris Tennier, 300 days. Keep going, my friend. Congratulations. Legokingiscool, thank you as always. Sincerelyme, 2 of them for Sincerelyme. Cdouble 8976, thank you. JoJoAces as usual. Moy Hernandez, thank you, my friend. Got Gladiator EA7, thank you. JTE Creates, Volk, and Nathan Darby. Thank you guys all for your comments. At the 1 minute 46 second mark, let's talk about something from our viewer Marion Jackson. Talking about self-control. So I'm going to name this one, the lack of self-control in our society during during semen retention. All right, so let's talk about this idea. So as you know, we talk about, I'm going to try to make sure this is clear enough here. As you know, we talk about on this channel, we talk about trying to look at how can, most of the people who view this station is males, and we have a couple percent females, and I think females are wonderful. Thank the Lord for females. I think they're wonderful, tremendous companions, great people, and it's tremendous to have females in the world. Most of our viewers, however, are male, and so we kind of talk about on this channel trying to become the highest value male you can become. And so we are in a society right now that reminds me a lot of the Roman Empire, in which the Roman Empire was very strong for many years, but then as you get into 200 years of existence, what happens is they start to decay from within. And the decay from within comes from the fact that people who had values, created values at the start of the dynasty, could have been the Incas, the Mayas, the English Tudors, the United States, back to Sodom and Gomorrah, Babylon, anyone you look at. So what happens is at the beginning of that stage, all of a sudden they become very strict, very conservative. And so what ends up happening is that a society is molded on the rules you got to follow. So people follow those because they want to make sure that the living conditions is great. Family structure is great. People can have have kids and grow the family so the generations grow. But after a couple hundred years, and this happens in all of these situations, what happens is that the generations who have followed, they have not had the struggle like the first generation did, or even a couple of generations. And so what ends up happening is they don't appreciate all those things, the rules we had. And what ends up happening is that they then try to break those rules or change those rules. This happened back in the 1960s, where we saw, as a kid growing up, I saw a lot of people revolting back in the late 60s, and I was only about 7, 8, 10 years old, but I still remember a lot of it. A lot of the kids revolting, especially during Vietnam, and why we were fighting, and what the establishment was all doing bad things and not treating people well, and all this thing was put together to try to overcome that situation. And that's when you had all the revolutions. Now, the problem with some of this stuff is the fact that you can blame other people. You could say it's, the government, these people, it's all those people. But really when it comes down to it, you got to take personal responsibility. And I see this as a problem all the time. I see many, many people who want to blame other people for their failures or things they don't accomplish. And that's, in my opinion, the wrong approach to take. And especially when it comes to retention, and especially when it comes to self-control. Because the bottom line really is, the only person who's going to help you control your nature, retain your semen, the only person who's going to help you create value systems or have a strong relationship with your God is you. And so you have to take responsibility for your actions and all of this. And so the art of self-control is a lack of it in our society because people lack the ability to take personal responsibility. If you are taking responsibility, you're not going to go ahead and do these things. Now, will you make mistakes? Sure. Will you release once in a while? Sure you would. I mean, that's going to happen. Sometimes it's inadvertent. Sometimes it's at night. Those things happen. Will you be angry at someone once in a while? Yeah, sure. We all commit sins. That's why we're human. But what we're talking about here is living a lifestyle in which, for the most part, you're controlling your nature. Now, as I talked about, and you guys mentioned this, and you're very kind in a lot of things that you guys are writing about how young I look and those type of things, even as I'm growing my beard back and I get the gray in the beard, and I look like I'm in my middle 40s or, at least 50, and I'm actually 63. But it goes back down to learning a lot of this information from Kendler's book of The Fountain of Youth. I also then combine that with the biblical teachings that I've learned through the Bible over the years. And it's very apparent that people can live a long time if they're able to control their nature. Now, what do I mean by controlling your nature? Well, you got to control those impulses you have to do things that could, in the long run, create a distance between you and your God or create some kind of harm to you. So let's look at all the self-control things. We start with the one that's the most important, and that's controlling your energy. You can get very addicted to a lot of these things, but if you're addicted to losing your energy, watching a show, looking at pictures, sleeping with women, you're losing those type of things, then you're going to get weaker because you're losing a lot of nutrients anyway. But you're also going to form a habit, and this is not a good habit, of being able to release and release easier. So it's harder and harder then to have the longer streaks because you're releasing earlier and earlier because you're so used to it. You're starting to build a wrong habit instead of a good habit. So the question then becomes, as you deal with this, how am I going to continue to focus on controlling my nature? We have to control our nature by making steps in the process to do that. Now, I've gone on a fast for 40 days in the past. I'm up to 1,600 days on no-fap, those type of things. All the things you focus on are the key to how you end up building your resistance. I call it an armor of God. The head plate, the chest plate of God, the helmet of God, the sword of God. All those things are things to protect you against temptation. So what are the things that we're talking about? Obviously, the first one is your self-control of your retention. You cannot lose your energy on a consistent basis and be any success in anything, whether it's attracting women, whether it's succeeding in business, whether it's doing anything. You have that energy for a purpose. And if you're blessed with having a lot of energy, you will attract a lot of things to you. Opportunities, business opportunities. You will attract things to you because people see you as a vibrant energy force. And people, whether it's subconscious or conscious, they will draw. Now, they'll say, oh, this doesn't matter. You know, I've seen some videos that, well, this is all BS. Well, it's not BS, because when you are sitting there and you have that type of energy, it's infectious. Whether it's subconscious or not, and you can blame it on something you want to, but people who have high levels of energy is because they're keeping their semen. Now, people don't want to admit that, because to do that means you have to, again, take personal responsibility. This is why we look at a society that does not emphasize personal responsibility. Yeah, they may have at the end of a commercial, one little thing says, well, if you have a gambling addiction, call this number, right? They may, as a beer commercial, say something, well, if you have a drinking problem, here is the number. But they're only doing that because they have to do that. The bottom line is that they want you to drink as much as you can because it's going to make them money. They want you to take as many drugs as you can because it's going to make them money. They want you to eat as much as you can because it's going to make people money, whoever's selling that type of service. They want you to take as many pills as you can because somebody's making money. So we are addicted to making money and getting people to buy products that they probably don't need. And if you take a holistic approach to your health, you don't need any pills at all. Very rarely, unless you're having some kind of surgery or operation or something like that. Of course, that's a different type of situation. So when we first start up by saying, how do I control myself, my nature? It starts with building good habits. And so you have to start one day at a time and find ways to stay away from releasing energy. Now, once you start doing that, and now you feel more confident, and you get all the benefits of that, confidence, clarity, good memory, you're starting to get your memory back a little bit. All these things are happening. That's positive. More energy, working out. Now you start using other levels of self-control. So you're going to start working out then, all right? You're going to start to look better, exercise better, because you feel better. You want to look better. And even at 63, I'm getting close. I've got about a 3-pack of abs. I'm going for 6. I'm still missing 3, but we're getting closer. And I feel improvement all the time. I'm doing a lot more lower ab stuff now, and I feel a difference because I feel it in my stomach. So I know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But the thing is that this is what you need to have done because you're looking at improving yourself. And it becomes easier because if you control your energy, now you have your energy. Now you can use it to transmute and to go ahead and make yourself better. Then you look at something like eating. Well, you try to keep yourself on a calorie restriction. You also try to eat the best types of foods of protein or carbohydrates and have a balance of those type of things, right? And then you're looking at, obviously, trying to refrain from anything that put in your system, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs or marijuana or anything like that. You're focusing on trying to put in your system the best things you can. Drinking a lot of water, trying to look at some proteins, but looking at things that are going to make your life more efficient. And this is keeping on goals, getting your mind focusing. So your whole life changes when you start doing retention, brahmacharya, sophism, because now you're looking at your whole life purpose differently. And now you want to use self-control, other things. Now, if I term this video self-control, I probably wouldn't get too many viewers. This is why we talk about semen retention as a first aspect of this, because semen retention is the hardest thing to control. But what you're facing out there is a barrage and attack from all ends of the spectrum with people who don't want you to have self-control. There's people out there, and maybe it's entities out there, and maybe it's probably Satan using people. They want you to not be strong. They want men to be weak. Obviously, other countries can come and invade the United States if we have a army that's weak-minded. I mean, I still remember the thing about the prisons where if they wanted to settle down the prisoners, they bring women and they have sex with them because they would calm the people down, the men down. This is what happens to men when they have, females who are drawing energy from them. And women, and that's all good. But remember, the only time really to do it is during procreation. All the other times, the male's losing energy. But the society's not telling you that. What society tells you is to focus on all these things that you can release all the time, you can do all these things, and now all of a sudden it's okay, it's healthy. Well, it's not healthy. We got 200 years of research that shows that people who release on a constant basis are draining themselves out. And it's just a matter of time. You see people who've been masturbating for 50 years, you can see how they look. You can see they lose all their energy. There's bones, skins, and bones walking around. And so you see that and you realize that, wow, I want to do this before it affects me. Too many people realize it's too late and they can't do too much about it. They can try to save as much as they can, but they still don't believe that they have to refrain from releasing. Because this has been ingrained in men and women too. You know, they've been ingrained in them for so many years that they won't think twice about it. But you must retain in order to be the healthiest person you can become. Now, once you do that, like I said, now you feel stronger. Now you feel like doing a lot more self-control in other areas. So now you start working out, and you do that religiously every day or every other day. I mean, in my case, I walk, I use a treadmill. Some days I do swimming. Other days I do weight training. I do, bicycling. All these things to reduce the weight and to try to build the muscle. And at 63 years old, it takes a little more time for me to build those muscles, but I'm still trying to be as lean and strong as I can be. And then obviously, you're still talking about trying to avoid things like gambling, addictions that people want you to do that. They want you to gamble. They look at commercials and it's so fun to gamble. It's so fun to eat, all kinds of foods, McDonald's and things. And I have nothing wrong with eating from any of these places, but realize the dangers of your health. I think the preservatives and the chemicals that we have in our foods compared to 1930s, 100 years ago, is incredible when you look at that. And you look at all those things that can hurt us more by eating regular food. This is why, it's important to look at things like fasting, intermittent fasting, which I believe in a great deal. Focusing on not eating for a while, clearing your system, cleansing your system out a little bit, right? Same thing with weightlifting, the same thing with exercise, and the same thing with your spiritual relationships. Exercise spiritually, exercise your intelligence. All those things should be focuses, goals you have. The more you're focusing on goals, the less you focus on these addictions or possible addictions. You have to be addicted to something, because most people, they cannot just have a balance of everything. Moderation is the key, but most people don't have moderation. So if you're going to start this process, the suggestion is don't have moderation. Go full out, but go full out on the good things. For instance, weight training, right? Working out, exercising, eating the right foods, brahmacharya, and keep your semen, right? Keep your retention as much as you can, right? Intellectually, get into learning, reading books. Reading them online if you have to, but reading, right? Spiritually, getting closer to your God, to the Lord, being able to focus on those things. These are all things that are important, right? On the other side of the aisle, look at avoiding things like, if you do that, you'll avoid things like going out gambling or watching movies late at night and releasing, things like this. You're going to be more enthralled in ideas and staying away then from focusing on those temptations that will draw you out. Gambling is a high stress level. Plus with gambling, you also have drugs available. You also have prostitution available. All these things available. And it leads you down the wrong road. So in summary, we must control our nature. We have a huge lack of control of nature in our society and our world. The way to overcome that is focusing on your goals, focusing on better yourself every day, and focusing on doing those things that are going to avoid getting away from all those temptations and putting yourself on a program in which you can succeed and get better. All right, my friends. Well, thank you again from, I think it's Marion Jackson for a great title, The Art of the Lack of Self-Control in Our Society. That's wonderful, and hope you guys got something out of it. All right, my friends, until next time, hope you guys have a nice weekend. Keep fighting, keep battling on, as we talk about all the time, and I always leave you with two things. First, every day, is a new day to a great warrior. And each one of you guys is a great warrior. And number 2, guys, I'm going to start screaming. We have to continue to fight. Fight, 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 because we need to deal with this Satan, deal with this evil forces that are trying to make us weaker and get away from God and allowing others to come in and take us over. We can't let that happen. Fight to the death, my friends, and continue to battle on! Take care, guys. Have a good night.